If your team waits to be told what to do, if they escalate every small decision, if they avoid ownership, if they look at you before taking any level of initiative, you might be the reason. Not because you're weak, not because you're unclear, but maybe because you're actually too helpful. Today, I'm going to show you how very strong, very capable leaders accidentally train their teams to be passive. And once you see it, you're not going to be able to unsee it.
This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
Take control of your career at Compassionate Care Unlimited, located in Western Pennsylvania.
Compassionate Care Unlimited is hiring RNs and LPNs. Choose your own schedule for a perfect work-life balance.
Plus, enjoy competitive pay and 24/7 personal support from their woman, nurse, and veteran-owned business.
Enhance your skills with their CPR training classes for individuals and businesses. Learn more at CompassionateCarePA.com.
Be uplifted. Be supported. Be part of the Compassionate Care Unlimited team and apply today.
Compassionate Care Unlimited is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Jeff Hancher here. I am on a mission to help you lead, inspire, and win in this life. Hey, if you're new here, we talk about leadership that is practical, direct, and sometimes even a little bit uncomfortable. And today might be one of those episodes because we are unpacking how leaders accidentally create passive teams. Show of hands, who wants a passive team? No hands. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants a passive team. And when the passive team exists and we've identified it, it's the most frustrating thing on planet Earth. Passive is not a great approach to progress, is it? But what if I told you we may, as leaders, accidentally created that passive team? So we're going to get very tactical in today's episode. And we're going to be dialing into a couple of behaviors that might be causing a passive team. We're going to be talking about the leader that is over-rescuing. We're going to be talking about the leader that might be over-explaining. And we're going to be talking about the leader that might be over-directing. If any of these behaviors have already resonated with you, that's fantastic. Congratulations. That means you can fix it. And that's a good thing, right? So let's start. Let's dive right into the first behavior, the over-rescuing leader. By the way, over-rescuing leader, we love you. We do. Man, you got a big heart, and you hate to see people fail. Because here's what I know about the over-rescuing leader. This almost always comes from strength. You're competent. You move fast. You see solution fast. You care deeply about results, and we love that about you. So when someone struggles, what happens as a result of the over-rescuing leader? Well, you jump in. You fix it. The email that sucked, you rewrite it for them. You take over the client call because you feel like you could do it better. And you're the one with the biggest mop and the broom cleaning up a lot of messes. And you justify it also by saying things like, look, if I do it, it'll be faster. It'll be better. You're probably right. It would be faster. You're probably right. It probably would be better. But here is what your team is hearing. And here's what you're teaching them. You know, if I struggle enough, if I struggle long enough over here, I know what's going to happen. Jeff's going to step in. If I wait, Jeff's going to fix it. Uh-oh. I think we might have just trained them something. Here's the thing about rescuing. It does produce short-term efficiency. That's why we love it. But here's what it also produces. It produces long-term dependency, which creates passive teams. Every time that you step in too early, you're stealing an opportunity from your team. And that's how we got to see it. So what do we do? If you are the over-rescuing leader, what do you do? Well, what's the next move? Well, the next time someone brings you a problem, Don't just answer the problem right away. Ask them, hey, what options have you considered? What would you recommend? If I weren't here today and I was not around, I wasn't available, what would be your move? Now we're getting people to think and take ownership. And when you ask these questions, be quiet. Let them think. Let them process. You've already trained them that you'll fix everything. You might have to wait this one out a little bit. Why? Because silence builds strength. I'm not coming to save you, right? The second one, the over-explainer. Oh, man. This one out of the three, probably stack ranking at number one on my list for myself. And the over-explainer, man, this feels responsible, by the way, doesn't it? Where's my over-explainers? Are we in agreement? Over-explaining feels so responsible, doesn't it? Why? Because you want clarity. No stone unturned. You explain everything. The background, the reasoning, the context, the alternative paths, the risks, the philosophy behind whatever it is. Why? Because I want everybody fully informed. But sometimes over-explaining, you know what it's disguised as? It's disguised as control. And if you're not careful and you're doing this too frequently, what it's going to start communicating is, look, boss, I don't trust you to move without all the layers. I'm not moving. I'm staying passive. Because if I don't have all the layers, I'm staying in the starting block because I know how you roll. And slowly what happens is your team stops thinking for themselves. And this is a problem. Why? They're not thinking because they're still waiting for the full download that they know is coming. The full download is coming. Every T is crossed. Every I is dotted. There's no stone unturned. Until that happens, I'm staying right here lethargic. They wait for the detailed blueprint because they know that's how you roll. High-performing teams, they need clarity. Yeah, I agree. They don't need a dissertation. I hope we're getting good people around us that know how to get the job done, right? So here's a shift that you can make. Over-explainer. I'm teaching myself right now. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this clarity or is this control? Hey, try cutting down your explanation by 30, 40%. Just get to the bones, right? And then when you do that, just ask, hey, any questions? Hopefully there's a fight for clarity if there's some missing gaps. But sometimes we can go a little too far. Let them pull information instead of you just pushing it all out up front and just bombarding everybody and leaving everybody in a frazzle, right? Oh my gosh, that was TMI, right? And then the last one, the over-directing leader. If you have high standards, this one's hitting. This one is hitting the bullseye. Because why? Well, you know what good looks like, don't you? You just tell everybody what to do because you know the definition of greatness. Hey, say this, use this format, follow this sequence, do this process. Why? Because we know what's going to happen. It's going to produce a result. Now, look, there are no question about it. There are moments that being very specific is necessary. But if everything is so scripted, your team becomes compliant instead of being creative. They're just waiting on the direction. If you control method every single time, guess what? You own the outcome every single time. That's a heavy load for anybody to carry. And what happens is, as the leader, you stay stuck right in the middle. So there's an alternative. Look, stop writing scripts. Define outcomes. Let people know what a good outcome looks like versus defining the entire script. Try saying things like, look, here's the result that we need. How would you all approach it? Start with the end and open this up. By the way, great way to develop people. By the way, great way to get team engagement. Maybe you say something like, hey, here's the guardrails that I have set up for the project. You own the strategy. Like, hey, look, don't spend more than $100,000. Here's the end goal. Godspeed. Go do your thing. Then coach them afterward, after the fact. I'm not saying just let it go, let it crash, let it burn. Give them some level of direction, especially outcomes, and maybe some guide rails, but then coach them afterward. There's going to be mistakes. That's where coaching comes in. And don't reclaim it, please. Don't reclaim it the first time something little goes wrong. And this is the control freak, and I'm one of them. Look, all right, I'm going to try it, Jeff, and you do everything right until the second that one thing goes a little bit off and you're swooping in. Ken Blanchard calls it seagull leadership. You see one thing out there and you swoop in, you make a big disturbance and you crap over everything and then you fly back out. We can't be seagull leaders, right? Here's the real issue. Underneath this over-rescuing, over-explaining, and over-directing, it's really one thing. Control feels safer than risk. Isn't it true? Nobody showed up saying, my goal in leadership is to be a control freak. None of us did that. But control feels safer than the risk, doesn't it? It's true. It feels safer to just fix it. It feels safer just to clarify it all. It feels way safer to just prescribe the steps. But protection, man, it can suffocate potential. If your team is passive, ask yourself, have I made it safer to wait than to lead? Remember, teams adapt to the environment that the leader creates. Look, if initiative gets corrected, it's going to decrease. If risks gets overridden, then it's going to disappear. If ownership gets reclaimed from you, then it's going to fade. You can take these to the bank. It's going to happen. So ask yourself this. When something goes wrong, do I immediately take over? Do my team members bring me solutions or just the problems? By the way, if that's you, you're exhausted and burnout, I promise you. Does my team ask for permission more than they exercise judgment? How about this one? If I stepped away for 2 weeks, would progress stall? Because if it does, this is an opportunity. If everything depends on you, the leader, that's not strength. What you have become, and I'm Jeff, I'm your friend, you've become a bottleneck. So here's some things that you can begin doing right away. When someone comes to you, choose to be very intentional. 3 things that I know you can do right away. Instead of just responding, just ask questions. Ask questions. Offer guidance, certainly, but let them decide. Be willing to let people fail. Take control because the risk truly demands it. These are the 3, and they're in this order. So I'm going to say these again because it's so important. These 3 steps are progressive. When it comes to you, whatever it is, ask questions only. Just ask questions. If you need to go to step 2, go to step 2. Offer guidance, but give them the leash. Let them decide. And look, step 3, hopefully we don't need it often. But sometimes it's the responsible thing to do. But use it only when you need to. Take control because the risk truly demands it. And define what truly demands it is ahead of time. Because why this is important, most leaders default to level 3 right away. Mature leaders, they live in level 1 and they live in level 2. Your job is not to be the hero. Your job is actually to build more heroes. We got to build heroes. Think of these steps the next time it comes across your desk. So in your next 5 team or individual interactions, here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. Delay your answer. When you think you've asked all the questions that you have, ask one more question and give one less instruction. And sit back and watch what happens. And message me so I can say, I told you so. I'm going to be the biggest I told you so here. What you're likely going to see is your passive team begins to take some ownership. And ownership expands when we, the leaders, when we begin creating space for it. Until next time, build a team that does not need you in every single room, and keep turning the pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.